Hi there, good to see you again. In the last video, we measured your happiness levels. In this video, I want to first talk about something I call the 7 deadly happiness sins. I call them deadly sins not only because they are very prevalent, but also because they make a serious dent in our happiness levels. Or to use the balloon analogy, they poke a serious hole in our happiness balloons. Here are the 7 deadly happiness sins. Drum rolls, please. The first sin is devaluing happiness. That is, even though we all want to be happy and we want to lead fulfilling and meaningful lives, we often sacrifice happiness for the sake of other things. Now, you may find it surprising that people sacrifice happiness for other things, given how important happiness is to us. But wait till I present the evidence to you. As you will see, most of us sacrifice happiness not just once or twice, but multiple times a day. And then we wonder why we aren't happy. The second sin is chasing superiority. Many of us believe that the secret to happiness is being superior to others. So we start chasing superiority. We want to be the richest, strongest, fastest, most powerful, attractive, most famous, etc. As it turns out, chasing superiority is one of the biggest killers of happiness, as we will see in week 2. It pokes a giant hole in our happiness balloon. The third sin is being needy, or its opposite, being avoidant. We all want to be in healthy, loving, nurturing relationships, but sometimes this desire can be expressed in ways that are unhealthy. Many of us are guilty of being too needy. Being needy is not good for happiness, but neither is its opposite, being too avoidant or asocial. We'll see why neither neediness nor avoidance is good for happiness in week 3. The fourth sin is being overly controlling. Many of us feel that the reason we are not happy is because my wife won't tell me how her day went, or my husband doesn't know how to be nice to guests, or because my kids don't obey my orders, or because the weather isn't as warm as I want it to be, or my favorite team didn't win the soccer game or baseball game, and so on. As a result, we end up trying too hard to control other people or to control the outcomes that we want. And this in turn lowers our happiness levels, as we'll see in week 4. The fifth and the sixth sins will be covered in week 5. They are distrusting others and distrusting life, respectively. Both sins share the common theme of distrust, but one of them has to do with distrusting people, while the other has to do with distrusting the outcomes and events that happen in your life. Distrusting life means looking at your glass and thinking that it is half empty rather than half full. It has to do with focusing more on the negative things in your life than on the positive things. As we will see in week 5, both types of distrust lower happiness levels. The seventh and the final sin is unwillingness or inability to tap into something that one might call the source within. To understand what I mean by this, it will be useful to note that all of us have a source of happiness right within us, a source that is accessible to us at all times if only we have the ability to tap into it. This source is the state of mindfulness, which is the ability to focus attention, but in a sort of a kind and non-judgmental way, on anything that we choose to. As we will see in week 6, being mindful makes us happy. Or put differently, we are happy when we are in a state of mindfulness. Incredibly, this is true even when you're experiencing something unpleasant. Example, your boss has just shouted at you, or you have just gotten into an accident. Even in these type of situations, findings show that you're likely to be happier when you're mindful than when you're not. And yet, many of us are not familiar with the source of happiness. Or even if we are aware of the word mindfulness, many of us are unwilling to try it out. Why? Because, as Dan Harris, the correspondent for ABC News and anchor for Nightline, notes in his book 10% Happier, it sounds too woo-woo and mystical. As we will see, however, mindfulness isn't too woo-woo. In fact, it may be the single biggest topic of research in positive psychology today. And there's a good reason why. It may very well be the single most powerful determinant of happiness. Now, it turns out that it's not just Dan Harris, but even his namesake, Sam Harris, who, as you may know, is an atheist and has a very sensitive bullshit meter, who also believes very strongly in the power of mindfulness and meditation to make you happy. Sam Harris talks about this in one of the best books that I've read in recent times called Waking Up. So there you have it, the 7 deadly happiness sins. This course is going to be structured around these sins, but I won't be talking about these sins alone. I will also be talking about 2 other things, habits and exercises. Specifically, after I talk about each sin, I will also talk about a corresponding habit. Then I'll talk about 1 or more exercises that will help reinforce the habit and get rid of the sin. Think of each habit as an antidote to the sin. So basically, the structure will be as follows. First, I'll discuss a sin. Then I'll discuss a habit to overcome the sin. And finally, discuss 1 or more exercises that will help reinforce the habit. How will you know if you're progressing well towards getting rid of a sin and reinforcing a habit? By practicing the exercises. One way to do this is by maintaining a journal. In the classes that I teach at the Indian School of Business and at the University of Texas, the journal is one of the required assignments. For this course, however, I'm not going to make the journal a required assignment. But I strongly urge that you maintain a journal if you can for the next 6 weeks till the course ends. Adios and see you in the next video.